Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dustin Kircher. I got my partner here, Ben Dreicer. We are with MHP Nation. We appreciate you guys listening to the show. We have Jon Bartlett today on the show, which is going to be an awesome guest. He's served 5 years in the U.S. Air Force as a captain. He did 5 years as acquisition officer, managing over 7 billion of assets. He has 285 units himself at a 10 million plus portfolio. He's identified, negotiated, and developed and transacted on behalf of the Congress, U.S. Special Operations, and other DoD. He's also a Lean Six Sigma black belt. So that means he's badass. He's going to kick your ass. So don't mess with him. But, anyways, we're happy to bring you on the show, Jon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I should clarify, that's more of a professional certification. So I don't
Oh,
literally know karate or anything, but it's more like optimization karate. So
oh, okay.
yeah,
I
yeah, I was
thought it
gonna say
was.
that'd be an odd flex. So yeah, yeah. One
Well,
time I was on the Tiny Tykes soccer team. So yeah.
well, either way, we appreciate you coming on the show, Jon. You got a cool background there, so I am curious to find out like how has that helped you out in the mobile home park scene and what you're doing in the real estate space.
Yeah, definitely. So I got started with parks actually with some other military guys. So it's nice if you just got a little
Nice.
bit of a network, whether it's college or work or family or friends, et cetera. So for me, it was just military. So I closed my first park with two other military guys and got along pretty well there. They didn't end up liking parks as much as I did. So then I continued to buy on more parks with more people. But
Okay.
it was definitely a really great entry there for just getting into a deal, no money on my end. They funded it and I helped out working it. So
Yeah, nice. And so what was it that you liked about the mobile home parks that your other partners did not?
it's a little bit more active. I'm more of a value add investor. If when it comes to like parks and even like real estate in general, but particularly parks, is either you're going to have turnkey or you're going to do value add. So I like parks because there's so much value add you can do. So
Hmm.
if you look at a 50% occupied apartment complex, there's something really wrong. But it's actually a little bit more common with parks just because usually the owners are going to be, sellers that are inheriting the property. They don't really know how to run a business, yada, yada. So I just look at the value add aspect there is just massive with parks. So and plus you can get creative finance terms like really, really easily comparatively. So just makes it a lot better overall.
Yeah, nice. And where is it that you currently own your parks at?
Most of them are in Georgia. That's where I physically live at. So
Okay.
I don't like go and pet the property every day, So I know some people are like, it has to be in my backyard. It's like you're not going to be looking at it every day, so it shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
And when I figured that out, I was like, man, everyone's crazy for like it has to be on my street. Then A, why you live on the same street as mobile home park if you're trying to invest in parks, and B, nationwide has got a lot more opportunities there too. So most of it's in Georgia, but we got some stuff in Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Indiana. Alabama, probably a couple other states. So
Yeah.
I think I'm missing some, but yeah. So mostly Georgia though. So trying to sell off all the ones that aren't. So
Oh, really? Okay.
yep, consolidate the footprint now. I'm at that stage for sure.
Yep. Nice. And
How many
and
total parks are you at?
I'm sorry.
How many total parks are you
I
at?
believe 13 or 14.
okay.
So
Awesome.
yeah, it just kind of gets in the. I'm sure you guys know because I mean these other guys you guys got on the podcast too. They're in like higher than I'm at for sure. They're like thousands of units. It's like, well, it's maybe I have this much. I don't even know. So I like talking to the guys when they offer on their own parks. That's really funny because they're like, I want to buy that, and they're like, oh, I actually own it. So so I'm not at that point yet, but yeah, I know some guys like that. Really funny.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
So 260 pads for 13, 14 parks. So you don't mind going after the smaller parks is what it sounds like.
Correct. Yeah, probably the biggest one we just did, which was actually kind of recently, it was 111 units, and it was 7 different parks. So I was
Hmm.
actually listed in Southeast there for a while,
Okay.
and yeah, it was Justin Davies was the seller on it, so good guy.
Hmm.
Ended up buying that, and that was like a couple of. I think the biggest one within that portfolio was like 60 park or 60 unit park roughly. So yeah, just kind of like the sub 100 for sure is going to be a little bigger value add there. It's a little bit more work, but we try not to buy microscopic where it's like 3 or 12 units or something like that. That's like too small.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
usually hovering around like the 1 mil range tends to dodge all the hedge funds. They're all trying to hit bigger fish. So
Yep. But they're all kind of in the same geographical area, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just starting to trim up the portfolio so it's all in the same geographical area. It's
Okay.
nice because like if a property manager quits from, Park A, then you can send them over to Park G or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that makes it a lot easier for sure. So recognizing that now and then also knowing how eviction laws are not always the same state to state, then that's certainly very important. So
Yeah.
but
Nice. What and so I'm curious with having that many parks and kind of spread out a little bit and smaller units, what's been the biggest I guess learning experience or the biggest challenge you've had?
yeah, I mean it's been we've gotten really good at setting up logistics. So we got to do that every time.
Mhm.
Usually I'm structuring it so there's three people at the LLC level, and then they all have differentiated roles. Usually I kind of play like director or whatever, but it's not, we're all partners, as nobody works for each other.
Mhm.
And usually I just kind of run the ops. And then we have one guy who's always dedicated to just manage the manager. And then they also can take on some side duties. So whoever the property manager is, they're going to go do their things. They're going to have questions, but who's going to answer that call? So by splitting up the workload like that, then it makes it really easy because one person handles legal, one person handles finance, which is usually me, et cetera. So when setting up a new logistical footprint every time, it's really important to make sure your partners are on the same page of exactly who's doing what. So we just put a chart out there and like this is literally what you're responsible for.
Nice.
And we also put people on backup in case somebody's out of office. So it's great because they actually get to take leave. And I know a lot of real estate investors that cannot leave the office because they own everything themselves. And even if they got property managers, it's just there's always going to be that one or two things that you just gotta be in office for. So
Yeah,
yeah.
nice. And with the 13 and 14 parks, whatever, what are you partners? You have partners on all, is it the same partner on every single one, or you partner of different people? Kind of sound like maybe whoever's bringing a deal. What's that look like for you?
Yeah, we're usually rotating through, and I say we because we're all kind of like in the same group. So
Okay.
it's about every permutation's been hit pretty much. So a couple of different factors will be who finds the deal, who wants to work the deal. Is it something that's in their skill set immediately versus is it too much work? So usually it's myself, Mike, Logan. That was been like the trio for a couple of them. We've also started introducing some other people, but it's predominantly been myself and my partner Mike Stinger, and we've been rotating through on that. So it's just kind of a case by case basis. I think some people get really like other people, none of the guys that I work with, but other people get a little upset. I think if people want to go work with someone else, and I always tell people like, yes, please go work with somebody else because A, you'll learn something new, and B, you'll want to work with me because I like to think I'm pretty organized. So if you're
Yeah.
running, or if they're better than me, then I have to learn something and I get a great contact. So it's always better to just work with new people. So
I
yeah,
like that outlook. It's a good way to put it too, for sure.
definitely. Yeah. Whatever brings in the skills of the portfolio of people. That's the better way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
More on who, not how.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
much of this business is like that, I
Oh yeah.
feel.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then with your partners, uh, is there somebody who's in charge? You said you're the finances. Does that mean you're actually the one raising the capital, or are you guys all raising the capital? Do you have a fund that you deal with, or every deal in you syndication?
Yeah, so we've been very fortunate that a lot of our deals have been either 100+% LTV, so we get paid to close, or
Mm-hmm.
it will be like 5% down, and then we just do like a hard money loan. We did one, it was like 600K down. Total was like 110% LTV or something like that. So we're just structuring it so we don't have to raise a lot of cash. I know some guys that raise cash and then they just give out like, 13% return. But I mean, our limited partners are getting like 300% over 3 years. So it's like not really hard to raise cash at that point when you're offering that kind of return. So, yeah, usually I'll be doing like the upfront acquisition and and like the finance, funding of it, essentially just getting all those pieces in plate. And then usually somebody else is going to be doing like lead generation, and then I'm working the acquisition with it. From the actual operation standpoint, who's going to continue to manage it later on, then I also do the finances on that. Um, yep, I usually take a step back later on because it sounds like I do all the work, but I swear other people do too. But I just take a step back later on, and then everyone kind of fills in more, so everyone's happy at the end of the day.
Nice.
And then when you are acquiring a new park in a territory that you don't have an existing footprint, is one of the three partners actually going to be boots on the ground at the beginning to find the right manager or put the right manager in place? Or are you guys able to do that remotely? How does that work when actually putting in place the local manager?
Sure. Yeah. Everything's remote. I'm pretty fortunate to say that we haven't really had any issues by not being at the properties. I mean, I don't even think I've seen like 90+% of my units, which some people are like, oh, that's reckless or careless. And it's like, well, if I send out enough guys and they take enough photos and I do enough research, then I guess it's
Yeah.
not. So, I mean, if you think about the amount of time it would take just to get on a plane and travel there and then look at it and then fly back. I mean, that's like 10 hours plus, and versus how many emails can I send out requesting photos in 10 hours?
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to get what I need quick. So yeah, that was just one thing that kind of, I was head scratching. I was like, why do people fly out there so often? I get it if it's an apartment complex, but when it's like parks, like it's everything's on the outside. That could be broken. It's really obvious. Like, I don't care what's in the inside of the trailer if I'm not going to own the trailer. So,
Mhm.
you know, do they pay rent? You know, it's a lot more, I mean, it's a lot more like self-storage units, as you guys know. All these park owners are usually converting over to self-storage units at the end of the day. So yeah, we haven't really had any issues like actually doing things completely remotely. So yeah, it's been, you know, sometimes it's a little hard to find like the best fit manager, but people are usually on the same on the phone as they are in person. So
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. If you have your check and balances, right? If you have runners, you have people that are not just on the management side that you can send. When I was running my single families, like I'd have a runner and my agent, and they didn't know each other, and they didn't know
yeah,
the contractor, and so and I would send my runner to go send pictures, and my agent to go get me pictures, and that's how I knew how to pay my contractor,
yeah.
because I had two different reports basically. So you have your check and balances, and that there's no need to be out there all the time. So
Yeah, no, I like that with doing the double photos. I mean, you know, we do it sometimes where it's like double. Usually we'll run like two contractor crews and make them see each other. That it's like same thing if you're like wholesaling a deal. It's like you always want to do
yeah,
the open house at the same time. It's like, hey, they'll take your job if you don't. You know,
yeah,
I will hire them. I swear. You know, it's just who gets it done fastest for the best quality. So
yep,
yeah, that's always good with contractors. Keep them playing against each other too. But we even get to do that with managers and stuff too. And but that's smart with the photos. I didn't think about that. So
yeah.
yeah,
When we used
redundancy is
to
best.
when we used to wholesale too, we'd only have it open for like an hour. And so that we'd make everybody come through at the same time. So you knew there was
Yep.
competition. Right.
Yeah. Do you guys not trying to wholesale for parks, or are you guys
No, I used to have a wholesaling operation
sure.
back in the day, and I don't do that anymore. But yeah, it
Have you ever
was,
thought about doing it for parks though?
we've had a few,
Talk about that.
but yeah, I mean, we mainly want to buy them. If
Sure.
they don't fit in our criteria or direct to seller, then yeah, why not? If the seller's okay with us doing it, knowing that we're not the buyer, then yeah, why not?
Sure.
So we know plenty of people that are willing to buy smaller parks than what we're willing to buy. So,
Sure.
but so you kind of alluded to it sounds like you like the tenant owned model. So I'm curious, what is your kind of buy box? What is it that you're looking for in a park? What is the size, the utilities? Is there any POH in there? What's that look like to you?
Sure. Usually we look at it on like percent return. That's just how I like to do it. Then it's just got to have a minimum amount. So like I'm not gonna you know, we all know generally what the numbers look like on parks, but usually if it's not a minimum return per partner, then we're not really going to be interested in it. It will usually result in like a wholesale or maybe just dead lead it instead. Um, we're usually just buying, assuming a 30% OPEX and a 10 cap on 10 owned parks. That's generally safe. And then we're looking for a top line that is at least double, if not triple or quadruple. And then we only buy with creative finance now because I've bought with banks. There's a fantastic lender in Middle Georgia, C. Blasey at Morris Bank. And we did a bank first position, seller second, and did zero down. And the bank was cool with us not doing a down payment. You know, he's able to work with us on that. I've closed two
Nice.
other parks with them too, but yeah, it's just banks are really just such a pain. So it's like, why not just get on creative every time? So we're usually trying to nail like a really high first position LTV with the seller so that it's like a 95% seller finance or something like that. And then just have like a minimal cash raise, if any, and then just close it that way. So if it's not in that, you know, department, then we're not usually going to be super interested in on it. And
Mhm.
I just don't really feel like we have like I mean, we could get really crazy on logistics, but I like my life and I don't want to be like just busy with like parks all day. So if we bought something really huge, then that would be a little bit disruptive for everybody for sure. You know, that's not like a light undertaking. That's you got to make sure that systems are set up. So I feel like right now, even though we're working a lot of smaller ones, just because it's not as disruptive, I feel. So when problems pop up, they're not like world-ending problems. But if you have like a 300 unit park and something's like county compliance or whatever, then it's going to be a massive issue. So
Yeah, it's a good way to look at that. So, you say you like the value add. What is your idea of a value add?
yeah, usually we're looking for below market rent and we never exceed market rent. I leave that to the hedge funds and everyone else to push in that direction, but I like sleeping at night. So,
Yeah.
so we never exceed market rent. We're usually looking for stuff that's, I mean, we've seen some crazy ones where it's like $90 for a POH next to a $900 POH. That's some pretty good value add. So it's
Yeah,
like,
that's
what's the
nice.
story here? And it's like, oh, they just, they haven't had a rent increase in 30 years. And it's like, all right. So,
Wow.
usually some crazy story like that. And we're not usually pulling on new trailers to vacant spots. We'll usually just incentivize people. So we'll say like, hey, we'll pay $2,000 towards your moving cost. Right. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have heard that one, but I picked up that truck from somebody else. It was like, hey, we'll just pay for your moving costs. Just move into a park, 2-year lease minimum. That's fine. Or instead of actually fixing up the trailers, then we just immediately RTO them as is, even if they're in like crappy condition, because we'll just RTO them off, make sure the person has to fix them up towards, and I just use the appraisal levels from single families like C1 through 6. I just say, hey, it has to meet C3 by such and such a date, or it has to meet C4 or whatever. So,
Hmm.
so we usually do something like that, and that's pretty quick, so we can get in. I mean, I think our record was like tripled the gross in like 75 days with no money.
Wow.
So it's pretty good considering we're like a income based,
Yeah.
valuation asset. So
Nice.
um yeah,
Kudos
so
to
when you
that.
get
You mean
when you get
down
a
payments?
a function of all those all together, then that's usually when you see that top line of like 3 to 4x. So
Yep.
Are you pretty much just giving away those trailers, or are you actually making some money on the trailers as well as getting the lot rent right away?
yeah, so we are very particular to actually specify our lot rent out on the rent to own leases. So we're rent to owning out the home, which is separate than the lot. That way the lot rent can continue to increase. And I usually put something in there to be fair, just in case some future landlord wants to be a jerk. Then I say like, hey, lot rent cannot exceed the highest in the park, at least, or like the average or something like that. So the lot rent will continue to increase. The home's valued separately as a note at that point. And then to an end buyer, we all know what that looks like from a valuation standpoint. Um, but so we're making money that way because we're just converting a junky trailer into a 25K note, for instance, and then we still
Wow.
get lot rent, which we can capitalize on the cash flow for that and value it accordingly. But um, sometimes we'll fix them up a little bit and then RTO them off,
Hmm.
and then sometimes we do actually just fix them up as a park owned home instead. So I just noticed it's not usually as cost effective if we have to burn through $7,000 and it only converts to like a $60,000 add to the park. That's only a 10x versus giving it spending $500 on it and then RTOing it off for $24,000 note. Like that's a lot higher return. That's a 5,000
Hmm.
return. So
Yep.
I'd rather just knock out the 5,000% returns every single time and just leave the 10x's to somebody else.
Yeah. Makes sense. It's a
Never looked
smart
at
way
it
of
that
looking
way.
at that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we literally just Christian Osgood, actually, I was on his podcast at one point and he was talking about like his resource card trading, and we look at stuff as literally like, is it time, is it money, is it debt, what is it for the resource, and what does it convert to? So we literally like here's our capex line items and here's the literal return is on it, and the internal capex items are always like 20x 30x whatever. And that's what's so cool about parks is you can hit that versus I guess
Yeah.
like if you're doing a single family, it's like you can remodel the kitchen and maybe you can double whatever money you put in for the remodel of the kitchen, but it's not, you're not going to 20x on your kitchen. It's not that good of a kitchen. So,
Hmm.
so yeah, there's just a lot more opportunities like that. So we literally just do a line item at the beginning assessment of everything. We say, what's it going to be? If you install a septic tank, it's like a 3 to 4x usually. So, just because somebody else is going to look at it and say, well, what if I have to fix it for 50K? It's like, it doesn't cost
Yeah.
50K for that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah.
I like it. I like that approach. It's it's smart looking and analyzing it that way. Who on your team does the underwriting? Are you doing the underwriting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
usually it's me. I mean, so my partner Mike does initial on that too, and he's pretty good at like picking up on where's the value add, what's the story, what's going on it.
Hmm.
And I mean, he's a partner too. He's not like a VA or anything. So he's looking at that and he's bringing it in. And then on the like super detailed underwrite, then that's usually I'll just go slave away for hours and just make sure that's perfect. So
Yeah.
um, we do our underwriting process, not to give away all the proprietary ways that we do things, but
Yeah.
so I do a 1, 2, 3 underwrite. So it's level 1 is like the 30-second max.
Yeah.
You can do it on your cell phone underwrite. It's just what's your OpEx, what's your cap rate. Let's figure it out from there. Level 2 is where we'll get a little bit more in the weeds and try and estimate everything. And then level 3 is like, no kidding, we're getting the quotes on everything. Like, what's the insurance actually going to be? What's the taxes actually going to be? But when you
Yep.
look at 1,000 parks, you can generally kind of estimate that pretty quick. So,
Nice.
yeah.
I'm guessing you've learned quite a bit of. Let me rephrase that question. The stuff that you were doing with the U.S. Air Force, did that help translate over into what you're doing with the mobile home park space and acquisitions?
Um, I wish I could say yes, and I'm sure it probably did in ways that I'm just not comprehending,
Hmm.
because it's like people are like, oh, like, college didn't teach me anything. It's like, well, it's more of like a, background
Yeah.
picture. It can help, but it also might not be required. So I don't really know how to answer that thing because I actually don't know the answer, but I would assume not, just because it was a very different line of work. So that was a lot more
Got it.
like big level, multi-year processes, but I guess what it was good for is it kind of taught me like patience. It's like
Hmm.
of dealing with larger bureaucracy or a larger project that has a lot of moving pieces. So
Yeah.
that's probably why I'm okay to take on the more logistically complex ones out in the middle of nowhere sometimes or whatever and get those fixed up all the way. And we choose to run it more like a company rather than like a little partnership or something. Like we have our like ops tempo that's going on. So, picked up a lot of stuff like that from the military. So, meeting weekly alone is like the fact that people don't do that for all their properties is kind of crazy. And that's like literally the delineating factor of if property is going to succeed or not is do
Yep.
people meet routinely on it? Like you can't just buy it and forget about it. Like you have to
Yeah.
meet every week, like to be on top of it. So,
Yep.
so some things like that, just from having, but I think like any kind of office job or any kind of W-2, if somebody's looking at it with the intent to learn, I think they could also pick up the same requisite skills. So,
Nice.
And how about as far as valuing like park owned, like existing park owned homes that are generating good income? Will you keep them as a park owned, or are you trying to transition everything to TOH? What's your kind of philosophy on like the park owns and tenant owns? And when looking at it, how are you valuing park owned home rents from an
sure.
underwriting standpoint?
Yeah. So usually on the sale, we notice people are looking at, they'll value at a park owned home usually around like a 40 OPEX and like a, 9, 10 cap versus a lot rent. Instead, they'll be 30% OPEX and then maybe like a 7 to 8 cap. So
Hmm.
it kind of balances out where it doesn't really matter too much what we decide to do with it, but it's more just a quality of life thing. So I don't really think there is like a correct answer on it. It's just like, do you want more money or do you want more pain? Like that's or less pain. So uh, if we're about to sell a property tomorrow, then we probably want to just maintain it as a park owned home. But if we're going to rent to own it because we want to hold on to it forever and ever and ever, then yeah, we would definitely be converting them all to rent to owns. It's tough too if you have an entire neighborhood that's park owned home, then if you're going to rent to own, you better know your tenants really well. Because if you rent to own to the wrong guy and he's stuck there, I promise you a drug lord can make $500 a month. Like, you're never going to know it. And then he owns that trailer and he's stuck there. So you
Yeah.
can try your best to get rid of him, but now he has a more, not necessarily like a legitimate equitable claim, but he can try and find, if he's smart, and that he could try to find um, you're gonna have to look for a really good reason to get rid of him. So,
Yep.
uh, yeah, we try to be very careful about rent to own. So, but if we're all tenant owned home park anyway, then we're like whatever. So,
Yeah.
renting it off. We don't like park owned, so it's go with the majority. I feel like is the better answer, at least for my philosophy. So,
Nice. And are you placing a park manager in every park, or is there a certain amount of pads or spaces that you need to have before you place a park manager in there?
yeah, we get all the we do only digital collection methods so that there is a redundancy in case the manager were to quit or whatever. We can still kind of sort of manage remotely, but We don't make that the priority at all. We just pay the fee and we're good with it. So,
Mhm.
and they're not usually living in the park just because that's a little hard to evict a manager that's not doing their job. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, give them a mirror, I guess. I don't know, but it's a little hard to do that. So we try not to have our tenants do any like actual contractor work, and we try not to have them do, actual management work. Try to have them offsite, which I realize is not going to be as they're not going to be as present, but at least it's less complications to deal with. So
Yeah. Nice. And you're
Can
requiring
you
all your
explain that a
part.
little bit more? You're saying not to have tenants in your park be the ones part of the management team, because then if you need to use somebody else, or can you just go a little bit deeper
yeah,
into that?
so if we have to get, so we had one where they're it's a tenant that we made the manager, but then when we said no, we don't want to have you the manager, then they're running around pretending that they're the manager and collecting rent. So it's like, well, now you can get into fraud type issues. And it's like
Yeah.
they're the ones liable for fraud. So that was a mess to deconflict and explain to everyone, no, actually we got rid of them, but no, they're still a tenant and they still live here. Um, so that's just something that we would think is, particularly if you had like 150 unit park, that's like a nightmare if you got a fraud issue going around. But at
Yeah.
least if there's a company and they're offsite, it's a little easier to justify that. But if your neighbor Timmy is the guy who's been collecting your rent for the last 3 years, and they're like, no, I promise you, like the company's just lying to you, it's me, like, pay me, or I'll evict you, and then you're gonna probably listen to Timmy. Um
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know, just something we'd be very mindful of in general. And if it's a contractor, it's not like as big a deal, because we could usually just say like, hey, it's a rent to own and we'll give it to you for very good terms. And, basically you're a tenant, and that's fine, because eventually you're not going to need that contractor, or you can go get another contractor reasonably easily. Like it's a per job basis type of thing.
Mhm.
So we try not to have like the lawn guy, necessarily be in the park for the same reason. So.
Yeah. Are you trying to convert your residents to cashless or electronic payments?
Yeah. So if it's on electronic, we look at that as a business value add. So
Yeah.
why I like multifamily, and why I'm sure you guys do too, is it's not really about the actual literal asset value. It's about or like the real property value. It's about the business value instead. That's what multiplies up. That's why we do it on a cap rate basis. And we're not like single families where we say,
Yeah.
well, that the real property value next door was so-and-so, therefore this is, otherwise, what's the difference between a 13-acre and a 6-acre mobile home park? And they're both cash flow the same. It doesn't make
Yep.
any difference. Um, so given that, then doing things like electronic payment methods or adding a property manager, that's going to just justify getting a lower cap rate. So capitalization rate compression starts to take effect. So either it's increase gross, decrease expenses, and there's two ways to increase gross, which is reduce occupancy or just rent more.
Mhm.
And then the third value add approach for us is actually just compress the cap rate, which is my favorite personally, because you get a lot higher return because you're just making it easier on the next guy. So we
Yep.
buy a lot of parks and they have like zero leases and they have zero collection methods, no manager. It's a huge pain. Who on earth wants to buy this? But because of that, then it's a lot more value add, not just from a very obvious standpoint, but some of the more like minutia type of things that other people just wouldn't really think to even request. Like, hey, I would like if I'm going to buy $1 million or whatever, I would like the leases, for goodness sakes. It's like, yeah, but at least now we're
Yep.
not going to be the guys selling a park without leases. So we've value added just by adding leases, and that alone can add $100,000 value. So.
Yep. Nice. And it sounds like you're going after basically a lot of seller finance deals. So I'm guessing you're going direct to seller as your marketing channel.
Yeah, actually, a lot of them have been on market. So,
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah. So a lot of people ask me like, hey, like, where are you getting your leads? And honestly, it's a more of an inbound type of thing. So a lot of them are through my partner Mike. He's very diligent about pumping out on Facebook and like messaging people if they say, hey, I have a thing for sale. And he's like, great, DM, do you look at your DMs? But a lot of them just tend to be a little bit more inbound, actually, just because I'm spending a decent amount of time with people and letting them know,
Yeah.
hey, here's what I want. How can I help you? That type of outreach. And that's not like, I don't think it's a type of marketing channel you can really force. I think it's just something that happens naturally over time. As somebody says, hey, I saw that you closed that deal and it was super complicated. Maybe you can help me out with my super complicated one over here.
Mhm.
So I've gotten about 3 or 4 done like that. So just
Nice.
people want to bring me on board just because they think I have something I can help them with for whatever the little piece is. And then that's why I personally do it. But For the on market ones, it's more about just hitting that level 1, 2, 3 underwrite every single time. It's like, okay, is it going to pass the sniff test for level 1? Okay, it still checks out. What's the value add? Does it make sense? Let's proceed a little bit deeper. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I like
so
that.
I don't even care if it's on market or off market. I just care if it's a good deal. But I know a lot of people are very particular, and it has to be off market for whatever reason. So
Yeah, the only reason I asked that question is just because I find that if it's listed by a broker, a lot of times they're putting down a seller financed offer or creative terms,
sure.
basically, right? When you're direct with a seller or say a wholesaler, somebody else that's gotten a contract, sometimes it's easier just to get to the seller and negotiate those terms, right? And so that's why I was curious if that's what was happening with you, if you're actually getting in front of the seller and negotiating those terms, or somebody else negotiated them after, or like relaying your terms to the seller, right?
Yeah, a lot of times I just usually I'll just say, hey, I want to talk with the seller to ask about X, Y, and Z, and then I just roll right into the pitch while they're on the phone with the agent. But I usually tell the agent in advance, oh man, it's gonna be really hard to get financing on this. Oh, this is a big issue here, man. You don't have the titles, like that's crazy. So, and then by
Yeah.
the time it actually comes time with the seller on the phone, it's like, wow, you like that sticker price, don't you? Great, let's go ahead and do creative instead. So we're usually offering, I would say, fair market value,
Hmm.
and then we're usually just getting some pretty good terms on it. Like we're not like losing money on the buy. That's not definitely not what you want to be doing. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, and I mean we haven't really had a or we haven't had a seller's agent that's gotten upset by doing something like that. So I think it's just about really knowing what the possible permutations are that could be, and being okay to do any one of them. It's like we will buy cash for half of the price that we're doing for seller finance. Sure, like
Hmm.
that won't be an issue. Like we're getting, man, we just got one on contract. It was 100K down on a 500K price, and and this is for 60 units, 60. So we're like, it's a really good deal. And we said, well, okay, you want cash? What about 300 cash? There's an agent on there too. They accepted 300 cash. Now we're buying this thing for like, it's worth like 900K. We're buying for like 300 cash just because they're like, great, yeah, okay, well, I'll go find a hard money lender. Like that's no
Yeah.
problem to me. Like I'll just turn around and refinance it tomorrow, and everybody wins. So
Yeah.
um,
Nice.
so yeah, so there was an agent on that one too, and he didn't care. So
It's getting the
yeah,
deal done, helping his
yep,
client and getting a commission. So
yeah. Yeah, you
nice.
Is
never want to be the
the
agent representing a ratty mobile home park, usually, I notice. So it's like you want to be like, oh, look at this mint condition multifamily asset I own. So
Yeah.
I'm listing, yeah.
Nice.
So the agent actually, you're requesting this call directly with the seller without having even talked to the agent about seller finance. You've let them know that, ooh, financing may be hard, but they don't exactly know the conversation that's going to be had with, or is that correct?
So usually it's actually we're talking with the agent, we're picking their ear on hey, what's going on with X, Y, and Z on the park. We got a couple items we like some clarification on. Yeah, I think we can move really quick if we just go ahead and jump on the phone with the seller as well. Can we go ahead and set that up? So, and then usually that's an appropriate time to also just go ahead and say, hey, do you want to hear our offer? Like, I think we heard everything we need to know. I mean, who doesn't want to hear an offer, right? So I don't even look at it as like we're being roundabout and presenting it. We just decide that like that's a good time to go ahead and tell them, hey, here's what we're thinking, here's why we think it's a good offer. You're welcome to consider somebody else, but given the amount of time spent on market or given the condition or whatever, then we honestly think that if we were in your shoes that we'd take our offer, which is true. So
Yeah.
so
That
yeah,
was
and
that was
we really
super,
try
that
to
was
win on terms every time, not price. Because I mean, you can get the value add later. Like, who cares if if you're 4xing on top line, it doesn't matter on
Yep.
what the price is. It's like let's
Exactly.
just get into the deal.
It's all about the value add components and what like you said, what are you multiplying that by? So,
Yeah, at least how we play it. So I
yep.
know some guys are turnkey with it, but I just feel like if you want to do turnkey, you should probably be in apartments. So so
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think too. Is like it's way easier to manage an apartment and your turnkey, and that's not the play. I feel like too on the mobile park side, but
yeah,
people that do it, they got fun money that they got to use. So,
yeah, definitely.
but
I think people should re-listen to what you said and how you actually approached the agent, because that was absolute gold. Because everybody should really be getting in front of the seller one way or the other, and knowing your numbers and being able to actually give an offer on the phone like that. I think that's just like a golden key that a lot of people could utilize. where they're trying to present these outlandish, maybe seller finance, and maybe the agent's just hesitant to even like talk to them about it. So that's awesome. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing.
I don't rely on agents to relay what I'm, because sometimes it's like really complex. Like we've done it was a sub two with a assumed loan with a seller finance with a bank all in one transaction. So it's like no chance that's making its way through without a mistake. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was like that had to be communicated directly on that. So yeah, I was like, hey, can I just jump on the phone here with them? Like, I think it'll be a lot quicker, or I can bore you and we can play the game of telephone and maybe not close this deal. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't think I've ever really had a bad interaction with for a property that's closed, of course. When actually getting those terms in front of them, I've never really had a bad interaction with an agent though. So usually it's the agents are going to always squawk and say, well, they won't take seller finance. It's like, well, do you mind if I try at least? Like, aren't you commission based? Like, I think you
Yeah.
want a higher sales price and mine is the higher sales price. Like you'll get paid more actually with me. So, and you'll help your seller. So, I know they get it protected, but I think they're just kind of trying to prevent people from basically just playing cowboy and getting in there for no down without any skin in the game. But what I'm always telling people is the skin of the game is my time. I'm working this deal for 2 years. Like I'm not doing
Yeah.
it for free. Like I gotta win somewhere so I can win on price or I can win on down payment. Like let's get in for really low. That's usually more favorable for everybody. So
Yeah. Nice. I like that. So what's out of all the parks you've owned, what is kind of what's been the biggest challenge? What has been a horror story that you've had to deal with?
oh geez. Yeah, we start getting into like I mean, just because I'm at like around 300 units roughly. So, you start getting towards one for every day of the year. It's like the likelihood someone's going to die every week. It just goes up a lot. So you got to deal with a lot of probate type of death scenarios where it's like, hey, I died, but like the next of kin stuff is in there. So usually we just try to get ahead of it and just say, hey, we'll just give you 2 months rent for free, and we'll even like offer to pay your moving costs and move your stuff into a storage unit. But like on this date, like it's kind of reset. Like you got a 2 month grace period just because it sucks. So yeah, we've
Mhm.
had a lot of deaths at one of our park just randomly, like suicides or whatever. So kind of gets a little
Mm.
depressing on that. It's just like, well, let's just get ahead of it and do what we can and try to not bug the family because that's you want to be a good human at the end of the day. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, that wasn't something I was expecting when I was like, yeah, let's get into real estate. It's like, oh, I'm basically gonna have to like handle people's like, dead belongings pretty much.
Hmm.
So um yeah, we had some other ones like crime. That's always a good one. So um yeah, it's like attempted arson or murder or whatever. It's just, it will eventually happen given a large enough pool. So just kind of just being as responsive as you can and getting ahead of it as best as you can is definitely the way to go. So it doesn't even matter if it's like class A, apartments. I mean, we got some nicer apartments and one of them just went to prison for 20 years for a 20-year type of crime. So it's like,
Mm.
well, they had a cat and now it's not alive. So now we got to go clean that up too. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just logistical challenges of dealing with usually it's like crime or death
Yeah.
that's kind of the harder part. So and just knowing how to like tactfully handle that. So
Yeah. Jeez.
yeah.
So it sounds like you have other assets that you guys buy or own.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's like 95% parks for me at least. We just got like a 5 unit in Pennsylvania, and that's a little nicer because it's obviously not a park. But I mean, we got some really nice parks too. And then I got some single family houses. I mean, I'll buy anything if it's like a ridiculously good deal, but usually the ridiculously good deals are in parks, so that's why I buy a
Yeah.
lot of parks.
Yeah.
So really try to keep it just to parks though, just because the deeper into the niche you get, like you just start seeing like the higher returns there, where it's like, hey, I already know that guy. I already bought 3 of his parks. Let me go buy another one. So
Yeah. Yeah.
something like that. So
Nice. You mentioned that the last park that you own was like a group or a package of 7. Are you focused on sellers that are having multiple parks and then you're trying to work out deals with them? Is that how you like to do it? Or you've been picking up like basically before that one by one?
yeah, pretty much my criteria is I have to make more on a dollar per hour basis and also on a total basis per deal for me to want to buy it. Otherwise, I don't want to buy it. So it's like getting crazy at this point where it's like no chance I'm going to find something that pays me this much. And sure enough, it still pops through every now and then. So it's got to hit something like that. So that's why we're starting to buy like small park portfolios just because they are usually, again, logistically difficult. I actually look at that as a pro rather than a con, because if you're looking for value add, the value add is about solving the problem, and that just happens to have more problems. So most people don't want to do it. And because you have less eyes on it, you actually can get your offer in the door a little easier. So it's like, why would you, it's like it's like when you call a seller, if it's listed on market and they never pick up, it's like, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Cause that means everyone
Yeah.
else is trying to call them and then they're not picking up. So just
Yep.
keep calling them until the 10th time you pick up, then eventually you'll get through. And then you actually have a higher likelihood of anyone else closing because you called 10 times. So same type of effect that we find with like portfolios is it's a huge pain. Like nobody wants to deal with them, but it's not that tough. If you get really practiced at setting up an entire logistical footprint in like a day, then you just blitz through on it and over and over. So last one we bought in Indiana, we were like, my partner Mike and I were like looking at each other like, did we do something wrong? Like this was like really easy. Like I don't know what like it was the easiest thing ever. We got everything done in like a whole day pretty much. So not in literally one day, but like 12 hours of work. It was kind of crazy how simple it was. But we were like, oh, we just leveled up. We just got really
Yeah.
good at this. Like, that's exactly what happened. And everyone else is running around like, freaking out over how to do it. So if you treat it like an algorithm and you just practice over and over, eventually you kind of get that experience effect, I guess. So
Yeah.
one day you randomly level up and then you're surprised that like what's going on.
Yeah.
No way is that easy.
Can you talk about what happens in that 12-hour day where you say like getting all the logistics in place? What exactly does that mean? Is that doing the DD at the park, scoping lines? Is that running through the numbers? What are those logistical things that need to get like be put in place?
Yeah, so it's about a day's worth of work, I guess, is what I meant. But usually I set up everything. We have the standardized file architecture. So there's something called the A staff in the military, or like a J staff or whatever. And it's like 1 is personnel, 4 is, logistics, et cetera. 8 is finance. It's the same thing every time. So everybody from every military branch knows what that department means. When it says like A2, it means Air Force Section 2. We do the same thing with our parks, or at least I do it, and I've implemented. So we have the exact same templates across the board, exact same file architecture across the board, and it's cookie cutter process. So usually step 1 is set up your LLC, all the rest of the stuff, operating agreement, yada yada. Then it's okay, who are we bringing in for the partners on the general partner side, and then we do our chart, who's responsible for what, and that's pretty much the same every time. It's just plays to people's strengths. So usually Mike and I are figuring out like who do we want to bring in on this one as a third partner, because we try to buy in threes. And then getting the seller data table set up. So we have like an Excel sheet that we share with the seller. They upload all their stuff into there. We do a compliance thing across the board. Who's got what leases, what's their phone numbers, what information we missing. And usually at the end of a cumulative 12 hours period of work, then it's usually exposing whatever the issues are that we need remaining due diligence from the seller. We have a secondary form that we send out. They fill that out, and by the end of it, we're like pretty much good to go. So meanwhile, we got our third partner, whoever's running the operations. They're running around like looking for mobile home park managers or contractors, etc. And we are always starting with multiple at the beginning, because I don't care how good they seem, they're on the phone. It's like get 4 backups, because that's the time to do it, because it's really awkward if you need to replace manager and you're posting on Facebook saying you're looking for a park manager. And if they see that, then they're gonna be like, what's going on? You're gonna fire me? It's like, so just get them all at the beginning, because you cannot wait until later, because it gets a little awkward then. So so usually that third person who's doing operations, they're running around getting all the redundant items on there. So so yeah, and that's pretty much what we do on it. And then we have our taskers, we have our weekly meetings, and we just immediately hit the ground running. It's pretty quick. So
Nice.
so yeah,
I love that. I love that if you're focused on this asset class, right? Like you said, it just starts getting easier over time because you're building out your systems and processes, which in the beginning seems very daunting, but once you have it, it just works like clockwork. And now you one know what to expect, and 2, you can get into things way easier because you understand it better. So I love that.
yeah, and it actually gets really good for funding and in theory also wholesaling, because if we were going to wholesale a park, we've wholesaled 2 parks, and one of the best responses that we got on one of them was like, man, you made this really easy because all my data is in one place and it's clean, it's organized, and you cited it, and you like, I already know what it is. But every single time we've done a funding presentation, we've also tried to wholesale it. We just make a lot more if we buy it usually. So And we do the same thing. It's this high presentation value. It's like, hey, we actually did our homework. Here's all of our stuff. It's super organized. Like, I have not met a single person. It's like, this is disorganized. So it's like, that's not been like, wow, like I'm so cool. It's just like everyone really, really appreciates that the most. So we can basically transfer that system to the next guy if we also say, hey, here's your path to pro forma, essentially, is what I call it. It's like, here's your to-do list. Here's exactly what you need to do and when and why. And I'm probably going to be, statistically, most people that are seem to, because I've based off the data I've looked at, most people only buy like 3 or 4 parks and then they stop. They don't buy like 10 plus. Like it's actually like not a lot of people in that category. It's like when you look at it, it's like I'm like top like 500 buyer in the nation. It's so weird. I'm like, I don't even own that many. I know a ton of guys that own more than I do, but it's like there's only like 500 people that own a ton. So it's like I was commenting to you guys earlier. You guys got all those guys on the show. Basically, is those are like your heavy hitters because they're all at that level and they just have like that many. Yeah, I mean, you can look at the data set on it because it's kind of surprising. So
yeah, where'd you get that data set to find out who's the top buyers?
Yeah, let me see if I can look it up real quick.
So that's
top.
I'm very curious about.
I know Evoke Capital. I recognize them because they put in an offer on one of my parks, and I was like, hey, I know those guys. And then top mobile home park owners. I want to say Berkshire's up there as like number 1 in the US.
Yeah, you're gonna have.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so if you go to Mobile Home University, that's got the top 100.
Okay.
And then I got curious because I looked at it. Yeah, it's about 500 lots is the 130th buyer.
Wow.
That's it. Only 500 lots. And then you're the top 130 in the US. So I was like, no chance. Let me go look it up because I'm at like 300. So then I looked up like where they pulled this data from. You can follow the trail on it. And that's why I was like, yeah, I'm probably around like 300, which is kind of nuts. So,
and there's like 42,000 mobile home parks in the country. So if you're in the top 1% of owners.
Yeah, well, it gets crazy because when you look at like number 1, they're at like 140,000 lots, which is just insane. So I mean, that's like a huge group. So like the top 25 own pretty much
a couple thousands.
Yeah, a whole bunch. So anyway, go look it up, mohomeuniversity.com, and then they got a data set on it. So really interesting stuff. Yeah, because I was like, that's so weird, and that's where it's like, yeah, I should go deeper into this niche because you get higher network effect from there. So when someone's saying, hey, why do you think you know what you're talking about as a wholesaler? I was like, oh, because actually, what do you know? It's a super skewed graph, and it doesn't take that much to get onto that end of it. Actually, you just have to keep buying the same asset class over and over and over, and eventually you'll be there. So it's like that with everything, but I think with parks is really specifically like that. Like you just got to really love parks if you want to be in the top like 100 or whatever. So I mean, Robert Merchant's definitely in there. I don't know where he's at, but I see his stuff all the time. So yeah, I know he does a lot of consulting though. So
I love that. So I'm curious, where did you start learning about mobile home parks? Did you go through any courses? Did you learn from anybody?
No, I wish there was like a centralized I mean, there's a lot of like courses and stuff, but it's like which one's going to be the absolute best fit to map your brain to, basically, and like accept it as gospel. And I just nothing ever really struck it as like, yes, this is the way to go. So everything was pretty much self-taught on that. Certainly could have expedited things if I had a mentor. So I've always tried to do that for other people at least. And any partners I'm bringing on, I'm like, hey, I'm just going to tell you everything I know, just because it'll be easier to work with, as well as you get to learn and everybody wins. So as far as getting into parks specifically, then I went to somebody who had money and I had no money, and I was like, hey, I generally understand commercial terminology and cap rate and everything else. And I've already got a little bit of house flipping experience. Like, I want to go buy something with you. What are you looking for? Like, tell me what your buy box is very specifically. And I will go literally spend 2 weeks looking for nonstop just for that. I got lucky that he wasn't just blowing smoke and like a wishy-washy buyer. Like, he actually was legitimately looking for that. And I just cold called for 2 weeks. I just got a free trial of the Reonomy for a week of it. And I got like all the phone numbers I could. And what was so funny is at the end of 2 weeks, the second phone number that I dialed, so on like day 1, the second phone number I dialed, turns out that was actually the first park I bought. So,
really? Nice.
So it's like, you can't be like, just pick up the phone and dial. Like, that's the solution. Like, you never know when it's going to hit. So, out of the 2 weeks of calls, and then there was the second one came back and was like, yep, let's do it. So And then we closed that. I didn't throw any money in. I just got GP shares, and then they got GP and LP shares.
Nice.
And yeah, so I got a little 12% on the first one, so 12% equity on the very first one. So it wasn't a whole lot, but it was
Yeah.
enough that I was like, hey, I own parks, and I own a park, and that
Yeah.
alone was enough to open a lot more doors than I thought. So it's just get into the first deal for whatever it takes, is what I
Yep.
tell everyone else. It's like, I don't care. You don't have to put in money. You can just go do the admin work, or manage the manager or whatever. Just try to add value in there somewhere. You can do that instead of wholesaling. I certainly could have wholesaled that first park for 50K, but I was like, I'll just take a cut instead. So
Yeah.
um yeah, but get
Nice,
into the
man.
deal for sure. That's the best move.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I
then
agree.
you literally didn't spend $1. You got the free Reonomy trial,
Yeah.
your own phone. Now you're already paying
Yeah.
for the service. So there's literally no reason why somebody couldn't do that exact same thing. Get a trial, get some phone numbers,
Yeah.
hammer the phone, bring a deal to somebody like you, and then either make a nice $50,000 or potentially 10% equity in a deal, just without having to spend $1, just putting
I,
in the effort.
I've bought other than maybe like 6 units, I've bought literally all of my units $0 in for me. Like not a single dime. So other than like
Nice.
probably like six, maybe. So like under 10. I don't know
Yeah.
off the top of my head exactly what, because there was like a house or two in there. So um yeah. So I mean, and that's actually what we do when we pitch it for funding. It was like, hey, like we don't put in money, like just get over it. I don't care if you're like, well, you gotta have skin in the game. It's like, I'm just not doing that, because now I can't infinitely scale, but I can scale up to my bandwidth like immediately. It's like, how much time do I have on my schedule? That's the limiting factor, not the money in my pocket. That's a stupid reason to not make money, is due to the constraint of not having money. Like that's doesn't seem very intuitive. So the constraint needs to be, how much time do I have, not how much money do I have. And then the other constraint is that some people say, well, I want to make XYZ off the deal. It's like, it doesn't matter how much you make. It just matters, like, did you achieve that? Because you'll earn more if you own the first deal. So again, I
Mhm.
just tell people, like, work for freaking free. It doesn't matter. Just so you can legally say, yes, I own this park to some percentage amount. That's way, way, way more important. So and then later on, when you're actually trying to buy them, then just know what the heck you're talking about. And then people will understand that you know what the heck you're talking about. They'll want to fund it, or they'll want to partner with you, or whatever. So I
Yeah.
just happen to be competent enough to talk mobile home park speak to a level that the other guy was like, great, like let's go buy a park together. So and I
Nice.
certainly didn't know everything I don't now, which is at least a little bit more. So
Nice.
yeah.
Are you setting up syndications when you're purchasing these parks now?
Yeah, we got some preferred partners that are pretty solid to work with. We don't have to
Okay.
do a whole lot of justifying to them, because they're like,
Okay.
great, like you made us boatload of money before, let's go do it again. So I probably need to be doing stuff more like a fund and whatnot. So I'm always looking for people to fund deals.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I just do the Facebook circuit, and then it usually gets funded pretty immediately, because if we're saying, hey, this thing makes, if we're buying it for 2 million and we're selling it for 10 million in 5 years, it's like, well, that's 8 million in profit. Like, I'm sure we can give away some amount of that to a limited partner and,
Mhm.
pocket some for ourselves. So then it's usually just like, well, what is that going to look like exactly? So it's not like so yeah, it's usually not debt placement from other people. It is usually like a syndication in the sense that it is limited and general partners. But we're always looking for more people to blow their socks off, because I've never met an LP that I've talked to that has been disappointed in their investment. It's always been like, damn, that was the best thing I've ever seen and I've ever done. So I was like, great, let's just find more people like that, and then we don't have to shave so much money off. So
Nice.
um so yeah, I know some
Is
guys that are
there
very talented in that department. They're really good at, like, just talking with, or at least just knowing people. Like, that's like, I can talk with the
Mhm.
people. It's just I gotta know the guys. So I'm
Yep.
underdeveloped in that department for sure. That's my fatal flaw, I suppose.
And
So
are you keeping these investors in for a certain period of time and then getting them all paid back with their capital? What's that kind of look like when you structure it with your partners or your investors?
yeah, usually I just call it no loss clause, which means we're married to the property until you get paid back your minimum. And then it's what we've been doing lately is people put in their cash, and then they essentially have like almost like a prom note against the park.
Hmm.
So they get their cash back, and then it's a percent equity split afterwards.
Okay.
Personally, I prefer just doing straight equity. It's a lot easier to do the math, but
Yeah.
that's like literally the only reason why. So
Yeah.
but that's fine too. It's like, I don't want to take a dime out of a park if the limited partner hasn't gotten paid back first. Like that just makes no, like, why on earth would anybody want to invest? It's like no, I'll get married to the park as long as it takes until it's, eventually it will turn a profit no matter what happens. Like, you
Yeah.
can't make a park go to zero unless like, it turns into a waste yard or something like that. So,
Yeah.
so
So
yeah,
you're
that's usually how we do the structure on it. And then we're just kind of, negotiating a percentage point instead. So,
Yeah.
um,
So I mean, you're doing the long-term play. I mean, you know that you're going to own these things for a long-term, for a period of time, usually pretty long. And so you're okay not taking anything up front, besides maybe an acquisition point, but your investors get 100% of it until they've gotten all their money back. And then you do the splits.
Correct. Yeah.
That's
Usually I don't like taking cash out. I mean, it hurts my pocket, but it's just a higher return. So like we were talking earlier, it's like if I know that a line item return on investment for like fixing a trailer or whatever is 20x, why do I
Mhm.
want to pay myself? It's like, let's just go 20x it and then I can pay myself. And I can pay myself 20 times more. It's like,
Yeah.
let's go do that. That makes way more sense. Like the whole point is to get into an opportunity where you can 20 extra cash, not get into it just so you can pocket it, a little bit and then take forever to get around to doing the 20x. So where I'm like really aggressive about getting all the value add done as fast as humanly possible and then get paid. It really does not make my general partners feel great because they want to pocket cash, obviously. But yeah, I mean that's the higher return and that's the higher dollar an hour for sure. Is leave all the cash in, like don't take a
Mhm.
dime out. And I know some people are like, yeah, right, like you're just not cash flowing. It's like, no, it's cash flowing. I just am like constantly reinvesting everything with it. So that is the move for sure. But yeah, as far as limited partners, that's generally the model that makes the most sense. And then they can rinse and repeat. And where do you think they're going to go park their cash? Like right back with us. And then they're playing
Yeah.
with house money, so they're not usually like as picky. And they're just
Yeah.
like whatever, as long as I get my money back, like that's all I'm really looking for. So
Nice.
that seems to be like the best model to date. And I actually really need to start taking more acquisition points or taking any acquisition points up front because I actually have not been doing that because I look at it as the same way as why would we want to over raise cash just so I can pay myself just so that we have less equity. It's like all in approach, like literally all in on our end. So, and that's what I mean by skin in the game. So I don't want to hear
Yeah.
anything when people say, why aren't you putting in cash? It's like I'm putting everything in. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
That's
Nice.
that's that's extremely fair. And just to clarify, so you're saying, is there a pref that's discussed, or no? There's no pref, but they get 100% of everything until they're made 100% whole, and then agreed an amount, whether it's 50-50, 70-30, or whatever the split is. Is that kind of what you just said?
we prefer not to do pref on it. I mean, it's understandable if someone's like, "Hey, we want to do this," but then we just negotiate them down on an equity instead. So we've done it both ways, where it's like $0 pref essentially, or 0% pref, or and then we got another. It's just at like 7%, which it's just like a mortgage pretty much. So,
Mhm.
but I'm all about just chasing the equity on it because that's where it's like I want to take a bigger chunk of the $8 million profit off of whatever, rather than you know some
You-
point or some percent whatever. So yeah, it's all about the big payday at the end, I feel, because it doesn't really um other than literally paying bills, cash is kind of pointless, is what I've kind of come to realize. It's like you don't do a lot with it. It's like, what am I going to go do? Buy more parks? It's like I could buy infinite parks if I'm doing no money. Like the only thing I need cash for is literally just paying my utility bills or whatever. It's like I
Yeah.
can't pay them in percent equity. I need to pay them with like literal cash somehow. So as long as you check that box and you don't have a crazy lifestyle, I feel like that's the better play. And then when I sell everything, then I can go, have a crazy lifestyle,
Yeah.
ball out of control with whatever $1 million XYZ. So, but
Nice.
I'm just not at that point yet. And I know a lot of guys are a little further ahead on that, so they probably have a different philosophy. But I think it depends on where you're at for sure. There's not like a one size
Yep.
fits all. So it wouldn't move the needle for me just because I don't want to increase my quality of life yet. So
Yeah. Nice. Well, Jon, I appreciate you coming on the show. We're approaching about an hour. So how can people get a hold of you? Maybe you want to explain or talk about what kind of deals you're looking for again. If you want to leave off with that.
sure, yeah, preselling.com is the best way to do it. It's right here. Preselling.com. And where we're going to be building out more on that is a little bit better of a wholesaling platform. So we're actually going to be getting more parks on contract and then turning around and selling these. So if you like any of the deals that I've been talking about, that's probably the best place to go to because we're actually shifting to a 100% wholesale approach and try to not buy anymore because we are currently logistically maxed out. So if you want some crazy, zero down type of deals or something like that, where we can get a financed wholesale fee, then that's going to be the best place to go to. So go ahead and join the buyers list there.
Nice. I think we're going to be good friends, Jon, because
Yeah.
I want to buy some more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. You can buy a lot for zero down. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah. You can buy them all, man, pay me a lot. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, cool, John. We do appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all the knowledge you got and going deep into the questions. We appreciate that, and I know the guests like when our guests do that. So, or our listeners like that. So, again, appreciate you coming on, and we'll end it from there.
All righty, sounds good. I appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, John.
All righty, thanks. All right.